So guys and girls, it's been a long time, but welcome back to Below the Curve Gaming. Today we are doing something totally different, and as you can see from the stack of miniatures, we are going to do some tabletop wargaming. Today we're going to do an of sorts unboxing set of videos on Hail Caesar, which is Warlord Games' ancient system. And I'm going to be looking at the Ptolemaic Empire Successor Army, which is ancient-ish Egypt, so from about 300 BC through to 30 BC, with the death of Cleopatra and Rome taking over the north of Africa. The models I've ordered are the Warlord Games Successor Starter Army, as you can see here. The Gripping Beast Productions Arab Spearmen and Archers. We have some Kickstarter models, a footsore model, some Wargames Foundry, and some Essex Miniatures. Now this is not the complete army, there is more to come. I have actually cheekily already unboxed the models and have assembled a few of them just so you can actually see what it is we're talking about. But without further ado, let's get into looking at what's in these boxes. So here we have the Successor Army box, the Starter Army. So this is from Warlord Games. It is £75. I got mine on eBay for £67.50 from the Troll Trader, so a 10% discount obviously. It contains 100 plastic phalangites, which is Pikeman. It contains 8 metal companion cavalry, a metal and resin Successor's War Elephant, and 3 phalangite decal shield sheets and plastic bases. These are water slide transfers. I will warn you of that right now. So that is a hefty amount of models, as you can tell. 109 models plus crew for the elephant. These go on stands of 4 for the infantry and individual stands from the cavalry, which you're probably going to attach together just to give you sort of blocks. Hail Caesar is not a game of individual models. It's a game of units. Models stay in place till a unit is destroyed. Having models in individual bases is a total pain in the neck. So rather than showing you lots and lots of identical plastic sprues, I've picked a few out and then we'll be able to have a slightly closer look. So we'll start with the most exciting one, the one I know everyone is desperate to see, which is the plastic bases. I thought I'd just show these quickly, get them out of the way. They are flat on one side. The large squares are 40 by 40, so you get 4 pikemen to a stand of those. We have some individual bases, should you really want them. These 2 bases in the back corner fit a cavalryman each. These bases here would fit individual lines of troops, which has no relevance to this box, but would have relevance to boxes with skirmishers. So, first up we have some of the companion cavalry. They are solid metal. They come with a variety of horses, most of which are slightly different. Now, the horses are a bit fragile. This is the second take I've done in this video. The first one I extolled the virtues of how solid they were, how nothing would bend, and then as soon as I tried to assemble one, I realised the tails are really fragile, as are the legs. They are nicely detailed. They have sort of saddle cloths with straps. They have bridle, bit and reins. I'll be honest, I know nothing about horses, so that could be totally wrong. But importantly, there are no stirrups, as this is 200 BC. Stirrups don't come to an awful lot later. The models, it's difficult to see in metal, but they're actually really nice. They have the later Macedonian helmet, which has no ear flaps, thus allowing the cavalry to hear commands during battle. They have a trumpet bearer. They have a unit champion with a short sword. The spears are brass rod, which is solid, and has the spearheads moulded on already. This is a lot better than having to supply your own wire ones or models coming with resin or metal spears already attached, which tend to be warped to hell and unstraightenable. I have built one of them. As we can see, the glue on, that is not a flush fit. That will need a heck of a lot of filler. The spear is tall. They will probably draw blood if you accidentally stab yourself. I will be gluing the base onto the next cavalry base to give blocks of 2 or 3 so that my units are easy to move. 6 cavalry is a total pain in the backside to pick up and move individually. Next we have the Pikemen. There are 25 identical pike frames, and these have 4 bodies, as you can see, 6 heads, 4 shields and 6 pikes. They have 2 detachable helmet crests. These are really nicely detailed. You can make out the individual strands. The faces have quite a lot of character. Their cuirasses are detailed, as are their skirts, for lack of a better word, their vambracers and their shin greaves as well. The pikes, as you can see, have that hefty butt that almost looks like a mace head that the Macedonians used to weigh down the other end of the pike. A sarissa pike was between 16 and 20 foot long, so you are looking at between 5 to 6 meters of pike. That needs to be anchored, otherwise it's completely unusable. The shields are modelled with places for the straps, as well as the rope that went round them so they could sling them on their back. Maybe unnecessary, but a nice touch. On the other side you can see the shields are nice and flat for easy attaching of decals, and that the faces are detailed. They have facial hair, they have grimacing expressions. They do look a little 10-15 years ago Games Workshop sort of quality, but there's nothing wrong with them. I've assembled a stand. Now, as you can see, the pikes are huge. Also, if you're doing these yourself, I would suggest painting before attaching the shields. I've taken one for the team, just to show what they look like. You can see you'll have to build the base up when you base it a bit, because otherwise all the men are going to be standing on odd little hillocks. I haven't attached any helmet crests to these guys, but I will do to some of them. The neck joints are flat, which means the heads sit on realistically only one way. You can turn them slightly, otherwise they will look really, really bizarre, as the human head does not pivot exactly when you turn to look over your shoulders. But now, onto the final piece, the one that, to be honest, I bought the box for, and that is the war elephant. So you can see it's resin and plastic. So we have the elephant's body itself. It's clad in heavy chainmail. Its leg has sort of banded mail round it. The helmet, which I have turned off camera, on the elephant is smooth. It has a chainmail nose protector, or trunk cover. It has chainmail coming down, or scale mail rather, over the tusks. 3 metal legs. Unfortunately, the curved leg, which only attaches to the base by the toes, is metal. These will need a hefty amount of cleaning up. Careful removal of the tabs, etc. It's worth noting that metal models often have very sharp tabs. Please be careful if you're making your own, otherwise you'll find as well that you're drawing blood. The howdah has slots for the crew to stand in. It has large sculpted shields on the side. You can see the platform is sculpted, as is the wood. It has graining texture, which is nice. It comes with 5 crew. Now that is going to be cramped. The mahout sits on the, or mahout perhaps, sits sort of on the neck of the elephant over here. And he's got the customary sort of jabbing stick with a wee hook on the back that you could use to sort of hook the elephant's ears. Utter animal cruelty, but one of the only ways to turn an elephant once it got going, allegedly. It comes with 3 crew, 2 of which will get the 11 centimetre long spears. One receives just one of the cavalry spears, and then the archer. What's a bit of a shame about this is that the elephant stats don't reflect the sheer amount of models on top. All elephants have identical stats, and actually they're not particularly hard hitting. Now this is obviously one elephant. One elephant on its own was of limited impact. Hannibal took 36 or 37 over to Italy, obviously. It has a nice crest which goes across the helmet. It fits in here at the back. It's feathered. It makes it tie into the rest of the army if you choose to attach these head crests. And then it has a tail with scale mail on it. All in all, a really nice kit. The elephant comes with a round base. Now, it is 80 by 80, but really you want your elephant on a square base, because if you're moving it into contact and units are trying to charge it, a round base is not ideal in this game. Characters go in round bases because they're just really there as markers. The elephant is not a marker. I will be putting mine on a square base. So that is the Successor Army box set. It is absolutely stunning. I would say well worth the money. To buy the equivalent models from Victrix would set you back probably £30 or £40 more at least, because you'd be looking at 4 boxes of pikes at £20 a box. That's £80. The companion cavalry from Victrix, you get more, but they are about £30, and their elephants are 2 for £30. So you're already looking at about £160, over double the cost of this box. It is worth saying about the companion cavalry, if we just turn one over on camera, welcome to my large hands, they all have cloaks. Successor companion cavalry didn't wear cloaks, particularly this Ptolemaic ones. They were the signature of Alexander's personal companion cavalry and would have been purple with a yellow trim, or yellow for purple trim depending on rank. But these are small semantics. As you will later see, my army is not going to look entirely historically accurate, but for people who really want historically accurate cavalry, maybe you'd want to consider the plastic ones from Victrix, which come with detachable cloaks. So here we have the Arab Spearmen and Archers from Gripping Beast. So these are 40 models, as it says. They can make 16 archers and 24 spearmen. They come with the bases. You can see I've clipped a couple out, as I have very generously assembled some of the models so you can see what they actually look like. You get 8 of these frames. So each frame obviously has 5 bodies. It has 5 shields. It has 5 spears, a sword, a pair of bows and a trumpet. The trumpet unfortunately looks a bit like a vuvuzela, so you could paint it in shocking neon purple or pink if you wanted to remind people of the dark days of the 2010 World Cup, but you may find yourself being ejected from your gaming group. So there's a couple of things that I think should be pointed out from the start. These 2 heads have Crusader helmets. The head here has a very obvious Crusader helmet. It's got the cross picked out. This one here at least has a turban around it. That does limit you to 6 heads. They are not the nicest heads. The models themselves are nice enough. They've got sculpted daggers, belts, they've got the long flowing robes. They're thankfully generic enough that they could be Arabian infantry from any time period, from apparently about 400 BC all the way through to 1837, I believe the website said. They have a very medieval sword, which won't be getting used. And they're not the most inspiring models, but you are getting 40 for £20. So let's take a quick look at them up close. So the archers, you get one with the bow lowered, you get 1 with the bow in a more firing position. I'm hoping to get 6 to a base. I believe I've done my counting correct, and I should. Failing that, I'll put 1 on a small square base, glue them onto the end, job's a good one. The spearmen I'm using as peltasts. Now, peltasts are a ranked up unit for the Ptolemaic Empire, so they're going on these square bases. I actually can't remember whether they have spears or javelins, so currently I've got the guys with the spears raised, so it at least could look like they're throwing them. I've gone for the round shields. There's enough to give all the spearmen round shields, and I just feel this will allow them to fit a bit better into my army. I'll be able to do freehand on some sort of suns or such like, so that they look like the same sort of shield designs as my heavy infantry. I put the boy with the trumpet at the back. I will need to try and find a model to be a leader. What I'm thinking is I have a spare set of the Vitrix mercenary hoplites, which are obviously from like 500 BC, but they'll have a Greek style sword, the sort of, I believe it's called sort of tulwar, the sort of reverse scimitar where the blade sort of curves down rather than curving back. That will probably do. So, as I said, they're very affordable. They're not stunning, but they're perfectly serviceable. Ancients isn't really a game like Warhammer where you've got the same level of detail, the OTT characters, that sort of thing. So, they will do the job just fine. I could have ordered actual peltasts, but as I said earlier, it would make my army look very Greek. And I'm not sure that actually I want the army to look completely Greek. I want the army to look like it's from North Africa. So these guys certainly help tie that in. So I would say Gripping Beast, for what they are, perfectly good models. They do a lot of cavalry. They do heavy chariots that I'm going to buy for my army. Now, the Ptolemaics don't get heavy chariots, but they get 4-horse chariots. 4-horse chariots are a total pain to actually find. Essex Miniatures do them. They will be the next section of the video, but price is a big factor. So we will see, we will have a look at the Essex Miniatures models, and then in a future video, hopefully I will have some 4-horse chariots from somebody to show you and discuss. So these are the Camel Riders from Essex Miniatures. Before we start delving into them as models, there is a cautionary tale here. These models come as the riders and the camels, obviously. However, if you look on the website, you can buy the Camel Rider with bow for £1.90. The picture shows Camel Rider on camel, holding bow. You would assume it's fairly self-explanatory. It's not. The camel is separate. The camel is £3.40, I believe, meaning that each model weighs in at just under £5, which is fine, don't get me wrong. However, I ordered them because I thought I was getting a unit of light cavalry for around £10. Instead, my unit of light cavalry cost me £29, thus was notably more expensive than the Vitrix ones, which are, I believe, £12, if only, 12 models for £29, and obviously would have given me all the light cavalry I needed for my army. This is a bit frustrating. I know that maybe if I'd looked at the website properly or read up on it, I might not have made this mistake, but for the casual buyer, this is not something you really want to discover when your army comes through the post and it's incomplete and very expensive. But enough griping, let's have a look at the models and come to a conclusion. So the camels themselves, these are the, I believe, at-rest camels. There is 3 different sculpts, as we can see here. The heads are slightly tipped. They have saddle cloths with leather straps underneath. They have rope bridles. They come on metal bases, pre-attached. They seem a bit more solid than the companion cavalry. To be fair, the actual camel itself is a weighty piece of kit, and if thrown in anger, because your light cavalry got wiped out without doing anything, could probably do serious damage to a wall or player. Please don't throw camels. The models themselves are nice. They are well sculpted. They have sort of turban and helmet sort of look. Thankfully, not a Crusader helmet. The bows are separate. They come with quivers with arrows and a spare bow. After all, if you're on campaign, you never know when a bow might break. The bows slot into the hands. The hands themselves need a wee bit of cleaning out, as did between the camel's legs. Cue a 1970s ooh or misses comment. My big complaint with these models, however, is that the legs are very closed. The camel's backs are notably broader. It took a lot of bending and eventual checking all the camels to get this model to mount onto the camel. However, from behind, there is a very large gap that is going to require a substantial amount of green stuff. I find this to be particularly frustrating. The site did not in any way indicate how or what camels should go with what riders, and this is the type of thing that for me is a bit of a deal breaker, because I don't want to spend hours green stuffing. I hate green stuffing. I want models that pretty much go together. Maybe they'll have the odd mold line cleared off, and then I can get to painting, get to playing more likely. But camels are 20 points for a stand of a small stand of cavalry. They have feign flight built in. Light cavalry admittedly are the same cost if they have feign flight. Camels have an extra dice of long range attack at the cost of 1 dice of close range. So it remains to see how effective they'll be on the table. They are nice models, and part of the thing with the Ptolemaic Empire is you're getting models most other races don't get. You get Camel Riders, you get 4-horse light chariots, you get a ton of cavalry options in infantry. If you want some badly sunburnt gingers, you can take Galatian infantry and haul the poor buggers to North Egypt to stew in the sun. It's almost like Brits abroad. But for all that being said, they are nice models. Would I buy them again? No. Would I recommend them? Only if you know what you're getting yourself into. But it's nice to have companies like Essex Miniatures who cover these more esoteric sort of units and models. So look up Essex, you will find stuff you like. And the models are nice enough. They're at the nicer end of the historical models. And the historical models, some of them do look a bit basic. And as we often snigger about, a lot of models do look a bit like an inflatable sex doll. Essex models do not fall into this. So now what we have is the command models. So these are as follows. The Egyptian Domina from Successor Miniatures, Wargames Foundry's Egyptian Nobles and Soldiers in Training, which consists of 2 noblemen / drill instructors, 2 guys with wooden training swords, 1 noblewoman with a fan, and 2 slave girls in a state of extreme undress, one with a flagon of wine and one with a plate of fruit. We also have, from John Popson of Effin' Cool Minis Kickstarter, the Court of the Sultana, raising standards for the last few years. And so we have the Sultana herself, albeit in a state of extreme undress, with 2 fan bearers. And then at the back we have a drummer girl and a drum. Now it's worth noting these models are taller. They would never work in any unit. And the Wargames Foundry models are notably smaller, and I believe actually 25mm. The command stand is on the elephant's base, so I better find a new base for my elephant. And the slightly larger models don't matter as much because the command stand is there as a marker first and foremost. This will be my general, so she's allowed to be a bit more impressive. This model will go on a similar side base, and I will get some form of Macedonian looking character. Warlord Games do a really nice set from their SPQR range. It's the Macedonian heroes. They're in their new plasticky resin, and they have one who's just called the Hero, and he has a helmet under his arm, shield, and a sword down by his side, and he will be one of my characters. These guys will go as a sort of diorama. The two Egyptian, the drilling instructor and the two guys fighting will go at the back, and the guy with his hands spread out will probably go at the front, and they'll just about fit in another base like this. The two slave girls and the noblewoman and the domina I will have to decide what to do with. But these were really nice. The John Popson models were very expensive, and I believe Kickstarter only. These models were £12 for the set of them. And this girl's £4, I believe. She's from Gangs of Rome. Gangs of Rome models are stunning. She might actually go instead of the chap with the open hands, because he looks like he needs a lot of cleaning up on the base. And I might have her be with the two boys dueling, and then these two. It'll be a very busy base, but I think it'd be really nice. I have to say I'm really happy with them, and I think it will give my army the sort of unique look. It's maybe worth noting that the Ptolemaics themselves, being Macedonians, obviously Ptolemy I was one of Alexander's generals, they never spoke Egyptian. The only member of the entire dynasty who did was Cleopatra, as in Cleopatra VII of Antony and Cleopatra fame, because she had this grand vision for bringing together all of North Africa, them all getting along, them all speaking the same language, so she learnt how to speak Egyptian. So actually having this Egyptian woman isn't particularly accurate. Also, the Ptolemaics took to battle a disproportionate number of times, because their army consisted of Macedonian troops, Egyptian levies, and overwhelmingly large number of mercenaries. It was only really the presence of the kings, queens and princes that actually held that force together. And they were all inbred, so the men were extremely overweight with very bulging eyes, several chins, and didn't have a particularly good life expectancy. We know this from the coins they minted with their faces on them. They were not an attractive bunch. The women were quite overweight. Cleopatra was most definitely the one that bucked the trend. And even now, we're starting to wonder if Cleopatra was quite as bonny as history would have us believe. But that wraps up the great unboxing. I apologise for having chewed your ear off, but I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully soon you'll get to see more of the army built. I'll have it in units with characters leading stuff. And I look forward to seeing you all in the video soon. Take care, all the best, and thank you again for watching.